The other day, while trying to cover some events at Roxham Road, Faith Goldie and her friend, whose name I don't have, I apologize, were assaulted by the pro-illegal immigration group. They were struck, pushed, spat on, while police did nothing, except maybe tell Faith and her friend to leave. Shortly after, Patreon booted Faith Goldie from Patreon, citing hate speech. Enter Davide Mastracci. On Twitter, he was celebrating her expulsion from Patreon, and then wrote this long Twitter thread that reads like a bloody manifesto. Associate opinion editor at HuffPost Canada, Words Al Jazeera, Vice, BuzzFeed, and others, turned his tweet manifesto into a short article for Medium. Here's why you should combat Nazis, not debate them. A lot of people have asked, why shouldn't we debate people like white nationalist Faith Goldie, questionable, instead of shutting down their events? Don't we care about free speech? Doesn't shutting down their events make us as bad as them? Here's an answer to all of these questions. Now, I actually have the answers to all of these questions. They're, you should, no, and it actually makes you worse. But fine, let's do it the fucking hard way. To start, we need to differentiate between disliking and opposing the far right. A lot of people just dislike the far right. They disagree with them, but are willing to tolerate them. Tolerance, though, right? Huh? Others oppose the far right, fighting them intellectually and materially. And make no mistake, materially is a euphemism for violently. Okay? If you're willing to tolerate the far right, you have the privilege of assuming they won't come after you. Other people don't, and they're the ones that matter in this conversation. Okay, hold on a second. I don't have the privilege of assuming that Davide here or some other Antifa pro-illegal immigration leftist won't come after me, right? But somehow I still don't matter in this conversation. And I know that I don't, because here I am defending in roundabout way Faith Goldie's free speech and, you know, perhaps her right to make a goddamn living. Well, that easily lumps me in with far-right white nationalists. God. So, yeah, we're going to see how this combination of justified violence and far-right lumping really comes to a head here. Oh, dear. A lot of people who believe they oppose the far right only do so in theory. In reality, they actually just dislike them and tolerate them in practice. Here's why. First, stop fucking telling people what they think and how they feel. If you seriously oppose the far right, the question you need to ask yourself is, what is the best way to oppose them and minimize the harm they can do in concrete, material terms? Now, here's the thing is, as far as I can tell, the far right isn't actually doing harm in concrete material terms. It's Antifa, it's far-left activists that are going out and assaulting people, pushing, striking, spitting on a woman, right? An unarmed woman who's there to record, to cover for her, you know, for news. A lot of people, like Maclean's contributor and Canada Land's Oppo podcast co-host Jen Gerson, in a recent article, though she staunchly opposes this framing of her work, believe defeating the far right in intellectual debates is the best way to oppose them. Now, I actually disagree here. I don't think defeating the far right in intellectual debates. I think just having the intellectual debates is the best way to oppose them. Let me explain what I mean. Last I heard of Richard Spencer, he was having debates with people on the left, in particular YouTube's Sargon of Akkad. In that debate, Spencer mopped the floor with Sargon. Just beat the snot out of him. Sargon's a terrible debater, all right? Like, great guy, great YouTuber, and does great coverage, has great ops. Terrible debater. But every reasonable, moderate left and right person that watched those debates knows full well Sargon lost, and still didn't think that Spencer was right. They just thought he won the debate. They still saw him as the same lunatic fucking douchebag that he's always been. And guess what? I haven't heard peep from him since. Now maybe he's still active somewhere on the internet writing God knows what. But in my window, the guy doesn't exist anymore. He's just not here. I don't see him. All because he won a debate. Just having the debate shifted him away from my view. They think the debates, because they confuse should with is. The only person confused here is Davide. They believe the best way to defeat the far right should be with ideas. And it is. You don't even have to win. You just have to fight. Because that's consistent with the liberal framework they view the world through, and their morals. Should defeating the far right with ideas be the ideal way to do so if it worked? Sure. Violence should never be fetishized, and yet he's doing it. And it would be great if the world worked like a debate club at your stuffy university. Joke's on you, bitch. I didn't go to university. But is debating the best way, or even any way, to defeat the far right? Absolutely not. Wrong. Even a cursory glance at the last 80-plus years tells you that. How to defeat the far right is not a new question. It is an old one. It is also one that has been answered over and over again all throughout the world by all sorts of people. Oh, look. Nazi scum, fuck off. Well, Nazis are socialists, so you're talking about the left here. I don't know what you... So those who believe debating the far right is the best way to defeat them either 1, haven't studied history, 2, have done so but think things are different now, 3, have done so but the methods of fighting the far right make them uncomfortable enough not to care. Won't someone think of the leftists? If the answer is 1, then read up. The podcast, blah, 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 blah. If the answer is 2, the onus is on you. Why will this time be any different? Are you willing to risk the lives of marginalized people on that belief? Remember, this is not about how it should be, but how it is. And the fact is, the answer is 2. It will be different because the only reason Hitler ever came to power was because there were no Hitler memes. Christ. Are you willing to risk the lives? This guy's willing to risk the lives of everybody else on the exact same guess. He's just guessing the other way. Motherfucker. If the answer is 3, then you don't oppose Nazis in any real way. There we go. There it is. Far right, right wing, Nazis. Right? I'm defending Faith Goldie's freedom of speech, therefore I must be a Nazi. No? I mean, I'm left of center. I'm pretty sure technically I'm left of Jordan Peterson, who, according to the Antifa leftists, is an alt-right Nazi. Some sort of monster. But I'm still not left enough. That makes me alt-right, no? Makes me a Nazi. This means you only dislike Nazis and are willing to tolerate them as opposed to using effective means to fight them. Remember, again, effective means to fight them means violence. Of course, this doesn't mean everyone is capable of using Antifa tactics. See? Materially, effective means Antifa tactics. It's violence. He's just talking about violence. This is a call to violence. This entire article is a call to violence. Man, I should press charges. That's fine, but the question then is, how do you view those who do use these tactics? If you demonize them, you put your own moral comfort above fighting Nazis, meaning you only dislike Nazis, not oppose them. Not everyone has that luxury. Your morals aren't more important than their lives. Now, this is about to get really weird. If you do oppose Nazis on the street or support those who do, then congrats. You've just joined a long tradition of heroes. Man thinks himself a hero. Some now ask, well, doesn't this viewpoint move you outside liberalism? The answer may be yes, but regardless, liberalism is wholly unequipped to deal with fascism. And that's plain old wrong. It was Canadian tanks that tore up North Africa and through the south of Italy, freeing Italy from the fascists, and it was the liberal democratic United States that stormed Normandy and pushed the Nazis back. Where the fuck are you getting this shit? Others ask if these tactics make you as bad as the far right. This depends on if you see tactics as inherently bad, or if their morality depends on how and for what they are being used. Now, here, this man is about to expose himself. Liberals aren't effective against fascism because they see means as more important than ends. Now, that's questionable, but here it is. They see politics as a gentleman's sport. If you lose, at least you fought fair. When they go low, we go high. In reality, politics is war for those whose lives depend on it. It's not a game. The outcome should be prioritized over what it took to get there. This man has just gone ahead and justified the white nationalist use of violence and genocide to carve out their own ethno-state. Because the outcome should be prioritized over what it took to get there. And if they think that's what's right, then he's justified their means. Ends justifying the means is a villain's fucking call. God damn it, man. Christ. And like, I'm going to go ahead and admit my shortcoming. I don't understand how he can come to this conclusion and not know he's a villain. I have no idea how he can do that. That's my shortcoming, not being able to understand that. So does using Antifa tactics make you similar to the far right? If so, only in the shallowest sense. Now, suddenly I'm getting a better understanding here. It's because he is ridiculously shallow. He only sees it on the surface, so he doesn't understand the depth of this. The man literally has no principles. None at all. Using effective tactics to stomp out forces that call for genocide doesn't make you as bad as them. It just means you're willing to do what it takes to oppose them. So basically, you claim they're calling for genocide, so you then call for genocide against them. Now, genocide's not the right word because they're not an ethnic group. They're like-minded people, and if I'm not sure if that's taken from the Latin, and I don't have enough Latin or Greek, whichever it is, to determine what the word would be for like-minded people aside, but that's basically what he's doing. Justifying violence against everyone who disagrees. It's blatant. It's so ridiculous. If you aren't willing to use these tactics or support those who do, you only dislike the far right at best. Remember, we were talking about Nazis, and now we're back to far right. So for him, the terms are interchangeable. Or even end up enabling them. There it is. There, I enable the evil white nationalist Nazi Faith Goldie by defending her freedom of speech. And by demonizing those who use effective tactics to fight them, which is just violence. That's what he means, is violence. The focus should be on these people. Why aren't they willing to do what it takes to fight the far right? Why do they put their comfort over others' lives? Why do they tolerate the far right? The man's made justifications for the far right or even liberal centrist people to murder him, right? He's made it justifiable. He's basically drawn the line and said us or them, and they gotta go. And you know that also at the same time justified his private helicopter ride. Like, oh my God. And this is why, this is somebody else's tweet. And this is why, frankly, I couldn't care less what anyone thinks of responding to Nazis with disruption and violence. You may not give a fuck whether I live or die, but I sure do. Well, guess what? I care whether I live or die. And I care whether you have freedom of fucking speech. Okay? This guy can say all... Well, actually, most of this he can't say. I'm pretty sure this is all like a call to action. It's literally begging people to be violent against people with whom he disagrees. And... I need a minute. There's an inherent problem with the concept of the greater good, with what's in everyone's best interest. Anyone who claims to know it is claiming to know, in a sense, perfection. And perfection, by its nature, is not only simply unattainable, it's completely unknowable. So to make the claim that one is doing something for the greater good, for everyone's best interest, in everyone's best interest, is to make the claim that they themselves must be perfect. because being perfect is the only way one would have the knowledge of what is in fact perfection. It's a claim of infallibility. And I don't know if you've ever met another human being, but if you have, you would know that there is no such thing as an infallible person. Talking about a greater good and everyone's best interest is crossing the line from intellectual pursuit to religious tenet. It becomes impossible to dissuade somebody who believes they're doing what's in everyone's best interest, what is for the greater good. And that's why we prefer to talk about freedom, because freedom, by its nature, is largely imperfect. Oh, absolutely is it. But it's the only thing we know that has a chance of working. It gives people the ability to do what they choose, not necessarily what they want, but what they choose. And that gives them better odds at success, at accomplishing goals, you know. Because, I mean, fuck, I might want to fly under my own power, but that seems incredibly unlikely. I'm no engineer. I couldn't build myself those wings. On the other hand, I can choose to disregard such a ridiculous dream and just, you know, go to work and pay my bills and take care of myself and the people around me. That's fine. I can do that. We're bound by physics and biology, and we can't know what's right for everyone. Most of us can barely know what's best for ourselves. And we make that same guess over and over again regularly and find out literally half the time we're wrong. But half the time we're right, and that's plenty good enough. As long as no other motherfucker is trying to tell me what I can and can't do because it's better for me. Fuck you, Davide. Fuck you. Get the fuck out of here. Eat shit and die. Relevant links to shit I said in the description. Maybe. I'm Irving Twin. Like, subscribe, or don't. It's a free country. At least it used to be.